Cool. Thank you very much. Will, thanks for staying. Thank you guys for staying. So it's really it's a special honor. I didn't know that Rabbi Kish and Hadassah Kish were in England, and we communicated yesterday or the day before, and it's amazing that they're here. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So maybe we say in Hebrew it's besher. It's like meant to be that you're here, and you get to meet them. And so I'll be very brief. I have a little bit of knowledge with African Jewry. I'll be very brief. I can become long-winded, but I won't. So the Ethiopian Jews were kind of stranded in Ethiopia. And people refer to them as Falasha, which in Amharic means stranger or foreigner. So it's a derogatory term. So they refer to themselves as Bet Israel, the house of Israel, or Ethiopian Jews. And they couldn't migrate to Israel because of the geopolitical situation. And in Montreal, when I was a kid, we smuggled about 110 families to Montreal. And then as soon as they were able to go to Israel, their families were airlifted. The apartheid white supremacist regime airlifted and saved the lives of hundreds of thousands or 100-odd thousand Ethiopian Jews and airlifted them to Israel. And then most of the community went to Israel eventually. Not all, but many. And the first four refugees who came, who were smuggled into Canada, Canada had an agreement with Sudan that if anybody in Sudan was offered a scholarship, that they would be able to come to Canada. So some of the Ethiopian Jews risked their lives and walked to Sudan, and they got stuck in a refugee camp, and they were accused of being Mossad agents, etc. So the anti-Semitism in that part of the world was and is alive and well also. And the first four refugees were these four young guys. I was like 19 years old, and they were 15 to 22 years old. And my parents adopted them. So I have four Ethiopian brothers. So I understood their situation and was involved in their trying to help them get to Israel. So I know the Ethiopian Jewish culture fairly well. I guess I came to know it well. And as we know, many of them now live in Israel, and they're integrating into Israeli society. The young people quite well. There's problems, there's issues, but they're doing well, I would say. So I ended up going to Nigeria, to Lagos, and I was introduced to Rabbi Kish. I didn't know anything about West African Jewry when I came. And I had the good fortune of spending the Passover Seder with Rabbi Kish's, Hadassah Kish's synagogue in the outskirts of Lagos. And as I'm not an expert in African Jewry, I'm not an anthropologist, I'm a simple guy. But what blew my mind is that the worldview and some of the practices and culture and kind of the way people see the world is so similar to the way I was taught to see the world from my family, my grandparents' parents, and I guess my variation of Judaism. And I'm not an expert, but I felt very much at home and connected. And it was amazing. And Rabbi Kish will say more about this, but I remember, you'll explain this in more detail, but you were explaining how the Igbos, so in Hebrew, Bet Ephraim is the house of Ephraim. So there's the tribes of Israel, so the house of Ephraim. And you were saying, I remember in Nigeria, that the house of Ephraim, Bet Ephraim, in Igbo is Biafra. So suddenly, it's like, wow. And eventually I made it to Ghana, to Accra, and met the local Jewish community there, and how their whole history of migration from Israel to West Africa over time. And just one more point that I want to make. With the destruction of the Second Temple, if the Romans came to destroy the temple, I was telling this to Sammy the other day, and Sammy and I are sitting in Jerusalem and we're going like, man, these guys came and they blew up the temple, their life is really bad. I'm going to head off to Europe he would look at me and think, we're crazy. I think we should go to Africa or Asia. Why are you going there? These people are vicious, right? So rationally, we know that Jewish people also migrated into Africa, to Ethiopia. There's Jews in Uganda, into southern Africa, and you'll hear now in West Africa. And I would argue, I'm not an expert, not an anthropologist, but it just makes sense that if the Jewish people dispersed and we were a major civilization, we brought monotheism, we brought all kinds of ideas, all kinds of culture to the world, which is the foundation of Christianity and Islam. And we went off and we were into exile, and there was no internet and there was no airplanes. We were cut off from each other. And in our lifetime, with travel and with communications, WhatsApp, and all this, this machine in our hands that we carry around and we look at 24 hours a day, is very powerful. And I really believe that Jewish people are connecting, and it's profound. And if we look at colonialism before the Europeans colonized, enslaved, forcibly converted, that there was something happening before all this history that we've learned here, to think of ourselves as white and black and all the stuff that we've been discussing. And I think this is an exciting time. So it's really amazing that you're here. Thank you for coming, and we will hear you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kish Ben Onyia. I'm from, when I say from, like I was explaining before, when you ask an European, where are you from? If he lives in Oxford, he says, I'm from Oxford. But originally he might come from Brussels, but he'll tell you, I'm from where? Oxford. But when you ask an African, where are you from? He will not say, I am from Oxford. He will say, I am from Brussels. He will refer to his ancestry, not to where he lives, because he sees himself as a stranger where he is. So if you ask me, where am I from? I will say, I'm from Igbo, Enugu State, but I live in Lagos. So when he asks me sometimes, where are you from? It's a dilemma. What should I tell you? Where I live or where I am from, actually? So we are attached to our land. Yeah, because the land, in the Torah, the what we call Nachala, the inheritance. Yeah, it's part of the commandments that you should bequeath your inheritance to your offspring. So when you don't have a land, where you don't have where you're attached, where is the inheritance that you're going to bequeath? You can't bequeath the city, you have to bequeath something. So we are attached to our land. We don't joke with it. If I drop dead here today, heaven forbid, my people will come for me. If it means paying all the dime to take me home, they will do that. Okay, I will get to it. I will briefly talk about anti-Semitism against the Igbos. When I talk about it, then we can go to the bit side. Here is going to be very interactive, so that it will be both ways, so that we keep like a discussion. And I've listened to two speakers just now. The first person, he quoted Hassan Nasrallah, who said that the Jews are going to come back to Israel, so it will be easier for them to destroy them. Is it not? Yes. But he's wrong. Then the second speaker now referred to the Americans, how they are anti-Semitic and so on and so forth. You see, when Hashem does something, Hashem always leaves a back door.
Hashem is God in Hebrew.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Hashem is God, okay? When he does something, he leaves a back door. He's a master, a strategist. He leaves a back door. You can't cage him. So now, what we may find out in Africa today might be a recipe to solve the two paradox of Hassan Nasrallah and the Americans. I was listening to them. It came up with, so let me read this, then we'll move on. Anti-Semitism is a form of discrimination and hatred towards Jews. It's unfortunately not limited to one particular group or region. It's widespread. So you can see it in America, in China, wherever you see people who are B'nai Yaakov, whether knowingly or unknowingly, there will be something against them. It can manifest in various forms, targeting different communities and ethnicities across the world. In Nigeria, an occurrence of anti-Semitism sentiments, although concerning, is not directed towards Jews, but rather towards Igbos. Why do I say so? Nigerians don't understand who the Jews are. Once they see you, they believe you're a white man, and they don't have anything against you. So, but most of them are Muslims, so they see you as a white man, so they don't have any particular thing against you, but when they understand that you are Jewish, then it comes up. Now, we who are Igbos, who have Jewish roots, somehow, I don't know who told them, they hate us for no reason. They hate us for no reason. I'm telling you the truth. If anything is happening in Nigeria, if there was a time there was something in Belgium, somebody blasphemed against Muhammad, they started burning the Igbo shops in Nigeria. We're not from Belgium, we're not cartoonists, we're not, but they burnt our properties. What did we do? And some of us don't go to church, so how do you link it to us? Once anything happens in any Jewish world, we receive it. So it still baffles us till tomorrow. The Igbos are one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria. The Igbos predominantly reside in the southeastern part of Nigeria, have faced historical and contemporary challenges, including instances of discrimination, prejudice, and marginalizations. However, it is essential to clarify that the derogatory term anti-Semitism does not apply to Igbos, as this term specifically relates to hostility against the Jews. So the people in Nigeria don't see us as Jews per se. So when they say anti-Semitism, they'll say, but we're not anti-Semitic. So because they see, the people in Nigeria see the Igbos as different and see the Jews as different. But when you ask them, they say, they behave like the Jews. So you see, it's a kind of a paradox that they can link it, but they still behave towards it. Nonetheless, examining and addressing this discrimination targeting the Igbos is an important matter that deserves attention. Throughout Nigerian history, the Igbos have endured episodes of violence, stereotypes, and marginalization. One notable incident occurred during the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970, when the Igbos, under the leadership of Biafra that we're talking about here is the name of our nation. Biafra, one of the people that migrated down to sub-Saharan Africa is Ephraim. And when they settled, they call it Bait Ephraim. From Bait Ephraim, Bifraim, Biafra. It went through that way. So that is where we settled, and people who are conversant with Jewish midrash here, you know that when Moshe Rabbeinu, called Moses, when he left Egypt, they said only 1/5 went out of Egypt with Moshe. Have you heard that? So where is the 4/5? So 80% did not live with Moshe. Only 20%. And that 20% is about 6 million people that you can check in the Torah. So where is 24 million people? 6 million is what we're talking about here? What are these 24 million people? And now you know when they went into Africa. How do you know they went into Africa? When they went to the sea and they were defeated and they were killed, and Pharaoh went back, defeated, dejected. You know, if they were remaining in Egypt, he would kill them. You know that? Like what happened in Entebbe when they freed the hostages. Idi Amin went back to kill the woman in the hospital. Remember? So if this 80% were still in Egypt, he would be happy to go to slaughter them, but they were gone. And they couldn't be going that direction. They went the other direction into Africa. So 24. What if you check all the countries, about 6 million people that left with Moshe, so 24 million went into Africa. And where are those people? And you know, when we say Africa, Africa of that time was Egypt, Ethiopia, the Libyans, some part of the Moors, the Sudan. And now, people are already living in those places. When you come, you're not going to displace people who are already settled. You move further down. So they pass the desert into sub-Saharan Africa. So that is the Biafra. Biafra sought to secede from Nigeria. This conflict resulted in a brutal war that led to mass casualties and significant suffering, disrupting the lives of countless Igbos. About 3.5 million souls were lost, mostly women and children, due to starvation and malnutrition. Nobody talks about it today. 3.5 million people died. And in 1967 to 70, when that war started, Israel came to help Biafra. This guy that died at Entebbe, Yoni, he was there in Biafra. But he was recalled during the 1967 Israeli-Arab war. Yoni is I think, the younger brother to Netanyahu.
Yes.
So he was there.
Older
brother.
Elder brother, okay, but I know he's his brother. He was there. Go check. So, because of that war between Israel and Arab, Israel could not, defend the Biafrans properly. After the war, Golda Meir warned Nigeria that this is the last time it's going to happen. So it's like an open secret who these people in West Africa are, but some kind of it's not being discussed. Following the war, the Nigerian government implemented policies that systematically marginalized the Igbos. One of the things they did was, because we wanted to go, anything that happens, the Muslims come to kill us. We were never involved. Not even whether because they see us as this is who they were going to kill. So when the war finished, our people were well-to-do before the war. So all the monies we had in the bank, what they did was, no matter how many you have in the bank, they give you 20 pounds. We're using kind of pounds, but not really British, not sterling. We're using pounds. No matter if you have millions, they give you 20 pounds. So when they give you the 20 pounds, all the money you have is gone. They tell you if it's a forfeiture for fighting against the state. So now when they did that, the government, all the companies owned by the Western world, they want to indigenize it, so you have to buy the shares. Now because you have 20 pounds, you cannot buy shares in those companies. So now, but our monies are in the bank. They took our monies and gave it as loan to their people to buy shares in the same company that was owned by the country before. So making up policies to impoverish us the more. But Bezos Hashem, When you talk about poverty in Nigeria today, it's not people from my place. It's still their place. I don't know how Hashem does it. When you have too much, you become too lazy and you don't struggle. The people who don't have, they struggle every day. Over time, they make it back. Igbo individuals were often excluded or underrepresented in key government positions, and their access to resources and developmental project was limited. This has perpetuated a sense of inequality and marginalization with the Igbo community. Another form of discrimination against the Igbos is the issue of the word, we'll call it marginalization of federal character. In Nigeria, we have a kind of a law in our constitution. The three major tribes in Nigeria is the Igbo, Hausas, and the Yorubas. If they want to make anything, there must bring people from the three sides to make sure nobody is underrepresented. But they find a way around it each time to skim out the Igbos. And because they take it that you went to war, they conquered you, so you don't have say, and nobody can. And when this war happened, they made sure all our men who were in the military were all killed. So you can't even take up arms. Because, you know, when the military pick guys, they can make queues and so on. So the government is defended by the military. So the military, if you're not in your support, you can't even do anything, you can't say anything. So they make sure they remove us from that federal character. The concept of federal character was intended to ensure equitable representation of all ethnic groups in government agencies and public institutions. However, it has often been manipulated to exclude or undermine the Igbos, denying them equal opportunities and representation in various sectors. The lack of adequate infrastructure development and social amenities in Igbo-dominated regions has perpetuated economic disparities. Many believe that this disparity is as a result of deliberate neglect and discriminatory policies by the Nigerian state. This underinvestment in the region's infrastructure has hampered economic growth and hindered the full potential of the Igbo people. Discrimination against the Igbos in Nigeria also extends to issues of security. In recent years, Igbo communities have faced multiple instances of violence, including attacks by militants and clashes with security forces. Security forces invade Igbo Jewish synagogues on Sabbath day and festival days to intimidate, harass, and sometimes arrest congregants, of which some of them are still missing under the guise of looking for Biafra separatists. Sometimes you'll be praying and the military march into the synagogue in the middle of Shimone Israel, you're saying, what do you do? And they take somebody away. You can't do anything. In fact, I know a synagogue in Owerri. The second son of the man is still missing for 2 years now. Who do you ask? When it's the government who took him away, and he talked too much. He might not be there. Sometimes I think last year's April, I've heard of a story of somebody, Rudy Rockman and team who came to Nigeria to make documentary of We Were Never Lost, and they were arrested. They stayed 21 days in maximum detention. American Israeli citizens. It was a wide story because they perceived them to be Jewish. If they had come as ordinary Europeans, Americans, nobody would touch them. But they perceive that they are Jews, they are arrested. Furthermore, stereotypes and biases against the Igbos can be observed in various scenarios of Nigerian society. The biases often assert that the Igbos are overly ambitious, dominating economic sectors such as trade and commerce. However, these stereotypes are baseless and perpetuate unfounded prejudices. You see the way they say the Jews dominate commerce everywhere. I don't know how it happens. If you're in commerce with the Igbo man, he's gonna, I don't know how they do it, he outperforms you. So that's, each time they say, these are the Jews, look at them here. If you can't get the ones in Europe and America, you are the next here. So whatever thing they do in the Western world, it comes to us in West Africa. The issues of discrimination against the Jews is not unique to Nigeria alone. Similarly, too many instances of discrimination, it stems from a lack of understanding, a fear of cultural differences, economic competition, and power struggles. It is crucial to acknowledge and address these issues to promote inclusivity, unity, and peace within Nigerian society. Efforts to combat discrimination against the Igbos should be multifaceted. Education plays a vital role in dispelling myths and stereotypes. You know, what this education now is like what we're doing here. It helps to dispel myths about the Jews, the stereotypes that makes anti-Semitism to fester. So when education is not adequate, that's when these things fester. So education also will help the communities living in Nigeria to understand that these people are not against you. They are looking after their daily bread, and somehow they have the trade secrets to maybe outperform you. Instead of attacking them, maybe learn from them. So it becomes competitive even more. It brings out the best on both sides. Efforts to combat discrimination against the Igbo should be most of the education plays a vital role in dispelling myths and stereotypes, fostering empathy and promoting intercultural understanding. Nigerian authorities, civil society organizations, and educational institutions can work collaboratively to include comprehensive cultural education that highlights the diverse ethnicities within Nigeria, including the Igbos. Furthermore, fostering economic opportunities and social integration for the Igbos can alleviate feelings of marginalization and discrimination. Providing equal access to employment, education, and public services across all ethnic groups will help bridge the gaps and promote a more inclusive and equitable society. It is important to reiterate that while anti-Semitism is a distinct form of discrimination against Jews, the issues of discrimination against the Igbos should be seen as a unique challenge. By recognizing and addressing this issue, Nigeria can strive towards a more cohesive society that values and appreciates the contributions of all ethnic groups. My people are Jews in Africa. And like I was discussing with some people here, we have 3 types of Igbos in Nigeria. We have the Igbos who were never Christians, traditionalists. Then we have the Igbos who were forced to convert to Christianity. Then we have the Igbos who now realize who they are, and they came out of Christianity. So the Igbos living in Nigeria to date, officially, what they will tell you, numbers between 40 to 50 million. But Igbos worldwide, it's over 80 million, if not more than that. Majority of the people sold in slavery to the Caribbeans, mostly Haiti, 70 to 80% of them are Igbos. Jamaica, Brazil, America. You people have had the famous guy they call Olaudah Equiano. Have you people have heard about it? Olaudah Equiano is an Igbo. And when he was stolen from, because he was stolen and sold. When he was stolen and sold to the Americas, so when he came to America, and the slave masters take them to church, and it will interest you to understand that the Bible they gave to slaves during that time doesn't have the story of Exodus in it. You know, the way Jews came out of slavery, the Bible they gave to slaves in America didn't have the story of Exodus. So they don't know that slaves can actually be free. And any part that says freedom for any person, they took it out. They only gave you the part that say you have to be obedient to your master. You have to be obedient. So the slaves will read and they keep being obedient. So Olaudah Equiano, when he reads these books and he says that what they say is similar to what I do, my customs and my culture. Every Igbo male, time immemorial, can remember before the white first man that came to West Africa were the Portuguese. Before the Portuguese came, it's our culture and custom that once you give birth to a male child, on the 8th day you must circumcise him and do the rituals and say the prayers, albeit in our native language, Igbo. Because when these people were running, you know, they left the Holy Land. There are different ways of migration. There are some who left because of the evil they did, and Hashem said, I will chase you wherever you are. And so when they were going, they will be hiding and try to hide their identity. Because the more they know who they are, the more persecution they have. So they try to everything possible to make sure nobody outside that sees them as Hebrews. So whatever thing they have that will make them Hebrew, they'll hide it. They will easily take the identity of the people they came to meet, so they wouldn't be persecuted. So they circumcise these children at the 8th day, and they live so. And the concept why you will know who is a Jew is they have what we call what do they call abomination in Hebrew? Is it tahara? Is it abomination?
Abomination.
Yeah, there's abomination, and there is in Hebrew we call it aro and unso. Unso is
Sacred.
separate. Yeah, you know.
Sacred.
You know, sacred. You know, when people say holy is not exact word for set apart in Hebrew. When they say holy, it means it looks like it's no. Sacred, it means that these people are set apart from these people. Whatever you do, they don't do. It doesn't mean like the way they say holy in the English term doesn't represent that set apart people. The way Israel say, I'm Kadosh. The holy people is not holy per se. It's Am Kadosh is that people that separated from these people, not that they are maybe they are holy like a god or anything. That whatever you do, they don't do. Whether you like it or not, no problem. But they don't do what you do. This is that says Am Kadosh does not mean holy like they think is holy. So in my place, that is the basis of our society. We are set apart. What we do is different from what you do. And there are certain things you do, it becomes abomination. So, and we pass our learnings orally because of maybe they were hiding who their personalities and who they were to limit persecution. So, like me, I was telling people, my parents, they teach me in the middle of the night. They sit you down, this is your tradition, this is what you do, this is what you do. So, most of the customs of the Igbos are that way. So, Olaudah Equiano was saying that whatever he sees, they teach it, they talk in the church in America, it's the same replica of what his people do. Like the Igbos, what the Igbo man, the average Igbo man do, is not, he marries 2, 3, 4 wives. And the reason why he marries 2, 3, or 4 wives is that because of niddah, when this woman is in niddah, the other woman is not in niddah. So he has no reason to cohabit with a woman in her niddah. So they build separate houses for them. Every person stays in their own. So he sees it that they're talking about niddah in the Christian Bible. That's what he practices in his home. So the Levitical details and teachings he sees in the Bible, that's what he sees. The people who read his story, Olaude Ekwano, he's from our place. So the Igbos have been living this way. Now, a lot of people have shown interest in us. So when they came, even when they came to tomorrow, our normal way of life, it's not like it's church. We call it omenana. Omenana means the things you do in the land. You know, the Torah they gave to Israel said these are the things you do when you get to the land. So that is why I said that we are attached to our land. So call it omenane, and the omenane keepers, if you are saying anything with him, once he says something to you, it is true. Because he knows that when he does not say it properly, he believes that he will die. So instead of him not to say the truth, he will tell you, I choose not to comment on this matter. So, but the people who converted and went to church, they told them that their own God is very merciful. He forgives you every now and then, so they practice it by doing what they're supposed to do. So I intend this session to be a bit interactive. If you have questions, you can ask me so I can bring out something that I can answer your question.
You might.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your talk. So, I wanted to know, so you're saying that Igbo people are persecuted on the basis of being Jewish?
Yes, kind of. The word Jewish in Nigeria, they don't know, but in their heart of hearts, I don't know how they get to know it, but whenever anything that happens in the Western world, they face us. And when you ask them, they say these are the Jews of Africa. And Henry Kissinger, a former American Secretary of State, if you go to, he described the Igbos as the Jews of Africa. So they don't see you per se as Jewish, but they feel you have a connection to these people. So whenever they can't reach them there, they reach you here.
John?
Yeah, so in 722 BC, the Assyrian Empire invaded Israel, right?
Okay.
Can you say louder? They can't hear you.
Yeah, so the 10 tribes of Israel were dispersed. Would you, is it fair representation to say that they're the lost tribes of Israel?
You know, the word lost tribe is what we call is a social construct, because they were never lost. Lost means something you can never find. That word lost came from when some rabbis couldn't explain it better. They believe that they can never come back again. So they say lost. But the Holy One, blessed is He, nothing ever gets lost from His sight. He knows where every person is.
That's why I was asking.
He knows. So they are not lost, but He took them away and put them somewhere. When He says, in the last day, I will speak to every nation to release the people you have. If they never took them to Africa, who will come back from Africa? If they only come from Europe and America, does what the Torah say, does it come to pass? Say it come from every nation. And you check the real nations, we are the 70 nations. So when they sacrifice in temple, they sacrifice 70 bullocks, you know. So some of the nations were in Africa, Europe, Asia, and so on. Even America was not part of the nations then. So He put them everywhere. He's going to bring them back. Okay.
On that note, I've done a little research. not on the Igbo tribe, but on the Lemba tribe, which is in Zimbabwe. And so do you have any affiliation with them? They practice Judaism as well. Is there any affiliation between Igbos
And the Lembe?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any official link with them. What only happened some years back was I know some two guys, their parents took them to Uganda. Unfortunately, the people they took them to are apologists, they are conservative. We're not discriminating here. But Igbo people are Orthodox people. Took them to Lembe to learn how to be cantors, and that's where they took them. They went to learn. That's the only thing I know, link, but we don't have any link with them. They are on their own. There's like a walking in silos, kind of.
Okay, so separate.
Yeah.
When you explained about where you're from,
Okay.
that's exactly the same for Maori. When Maori say where they're from, where I'm from is where my ancestors are, and I don't live there, but that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know what your feeling is towards Israel, the land of Israel, Jerusalem, in terms of that kind of where you're from. I mean, does that fit into your thinking?
Okay. Now, our ancestors told us and they tell us that we are from Israel. Now, certain places in our cities that, when these people were living, they didn't just go, they would take some relics from the Holy Land. And when they get to those places they are going, they put it and it becomes a symbol where they gather. So whenever they come to that place, that relic from the Holy Land they feel connected to the Holy Land. So that is why we connect ourselves to wherever we are now, so we can be connected to the Holy Land, because there's a relic from the Holy Land that is there that connects us to the land. That is why we attach importance to the land.
Do you see yourself as, not you personally, but going back to the Holy Land?
Now, like I said, human beings, when it ask an Igbo man, do you want to go back to Israel? Majority of them, they do not want, but what they say they want to do, they can be doing the pilgrimage festivals. They can go because they have establishments, some are millionaires and so on. So we are not in the same shoes with the Beta Israel of Ethiopia. Yes. The Igbos are rich people. The first time Queen Elizabeth came to Nigeria in the 60s, the Nigerian country, they didn't have a limo to drive Queen Elizabeth. They had to borrow from an Igbo merchant, his limousine, Rolls Royce, then to drive Queen Elizabeth. So such family, you can't tell them to leave whatever they have and come to Israel and say, but they can go visit, do their obligations, and come back. And that fits to what I'm thinking. All children of Israel cannot come back to Israel and stay. Because in the Messianic time, for Israel to rule the world, it doesn't mean that people will go from Israel and rule them. It means people who are affiliated to Israel in those countries becomes the head of those countries, and they have alliances with Israel. So all these people, they're here, they are going to grow up and come to the top. And before you know it, Israel becomes a world power with all the alliances they have all over the world. So we're thinking that everybody should make a layer, but if I look at the land, it's not up to a state in Nigeria. And if you take 40 million Igbos and put in that land, imagine what it will be like. And Hashem didn't make a mistake. Maybe we are not understanding him. If you know what he told our father Abraham, that up to wherever your eyes will reach, that is land I'm going to give you. It might look a bit overboard, but that's a fact. If you start checking all the land in Syria, Iran, Iraq, they are part of the land they gave to Abraham. How will he acquire that? Only him knows, not me. Because I don't just believe, I know he will do it.
Thank you for a very interesting
interesting talk. So I have a question. Earlier, and I don't know if you were here, we were talking about how Jewish rabbis get trained in certain institutions.
Okay.
Where do African rabbis get trained?
Okay, when you say African rabbi, I can say Igbos. Like I told you, the Igbos, whatever you have in Judaism, you have it in Igbo livelihood. When an Igbo man wakes up from sleep, he doesn't say a word to you until he washes his hand. We didn't learn it from maybe Torah, no. It is our culture, it's our behavior. We live it day to day. So, the training of the Igbo people is our day-to-day livelihood. They don't see it as maybe a seminarian thing. Is our livelihood, normal culture. So every male normally in the Jewish culture from 13 years it goes to bar mitzvah and so on and so forth. So from the Igbo culture, from 13 years to 18 years, he gets to mature into a man. So he learns all this and becomes a custodian of the Omenani. Omenani is all the precepts of the Torah that everybody knows. So it's a normal way of life. They get trained in this, not like they go into a seminary, but the African settings, all the midot and the hukim and so on, they know it, they teach it to our children, but they don't know, go now and start crying, you say you're a rabbi, but it's like you're a custodian of the culture. And once you're a custodian of the culture, there are certain things you don't do, you don't engage in. Just like the way a rabbi will not engage in certain things, he lives certain precepts in his life.
So if I can follow up, so do you celebrate the Sabbath? Do you read the Torah?
Yes. Now, the Igbo days, ways of doing things, we follow the phases of the moon. The phases of the moon, you know, all the Hagim, the festivals in the Torah, has to correspond with certain phase of the moon. Either it's going at the moon full cycle of the half moon. One of the festivals that comes in the half of the moon is Shavuot. You go and check, whenever it comes, the moon is in the quarter, then Pesach and the other one is a full moon. So the Igbos, they take their festivals in the moon phases. So now, the Shabbat of the Igbos follows the phases of the moon. Like when the moon comes out, normally, you know, when the moon comes out, maybe the first day and a half, you don't actually see it, you don't see it. So by the time it takes 6-7 days, it goes into a half moon. So that half moon for the Igbos is a resting day. And now if you want to follow it specifically, that Shabbat, the moon phases, doesn't actually, sometimes it falls 7 point something days. If you have moon app in your phone or to check, between 7 and 8 days. So natural thing for the Igbo, our Sabbath falls in the cycles of 7 to 8 days. So the Igbo counting of weeks is in 4 days. So 2 4 days makes the 8 days. So the half of the moon, the moon comes out today. That day it comes out is Rosh Chodesh for us in our native land, not the one in the Torah. It's a Yom Tov. Make celebrations, not related to Judaism. That is what we do. Then after that, count 7 days. That is the resting day. Count another 7 days. That is the resting day. By the time the moon is 22nd day, 22 days, is the quarter moon has come back again. By the time it's 29:30, it disappeared. And if you check, the first Shabbat that was did in the Torah, I think is in the book of Exodus 16, when the children of Israel left Egypt. They left Egypt in the first month, well known, after the death of the Egyptians. The 15th day, the Passover day, they left. And in the second month, in the 15th day, they got to the plain of Ziv or so. So then they settled and they started murmuring, no food, no this, and Hashem gave them manna. And he told them, they came into that place on the 15th, he gave them manna and said, on the 6th day, you should take double portion. You understand? On the 7th day will be what? A Shabbat. So if they came to the place on the 15th of that month, second month, and he gave them the manna, and they have 6 days to pick manna, then the 7th day. So if you add that 7 to 15, it is 22nd day. So the moon has gone to the third phase of the moon. So the first Shabbat they ever kept was after the full moon, the 15th they came. The 7th day, the moon has rescinded to the other quarter. So the first ever Shabbat they kept was in the phase of the moon. So the Shabbat follows the moon phase. So that is how we do our own rest days, the moon phases. Not actually the 7-day week Shabbat we follow now. That is our traditional way of doing our stuff.
So I think the final question, because we have to wrap up. Naomi, you wanted to?
No, I didn't
sorry.
have a question, Marilyn.
Marilyn,
No, but
sorry.
I grant mercy to everyone here and the speaker, but thank you so much for being here. It's more proof that there are many ways to be Jewish in the world, and I really appreciate your presence and both of you.
Is there anybody else? That would
Is there a book or someone like writing a PhD?
There's an article from ISGAP. If you Google the Igbo Jews, you're going to find an article from Dr. Emily Bruder of ISGAP.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The question I have with some of the traditions, for example, circumcision
Okay.
versus some of the other traditions that African Igbo tribe would do they cross or do they conflict at any point?
With the Bible?
Yes.
Never, ever.
Okay.
When, I think in the 15th century, there's, if I read for you, there are some Rabbi Gaon of Vilna wrote letter to Igbos. Can look for it now and do for. He wrote letter to Igbos in those centuries. So nothing that we do conflicts with what Torah say. We were doing it years and years ago before Torah came. So when Basdin, I think G.A. Basdin, was advising the missionaries who were coming to Africa, they say, if you are going to meet the Igbos, if you want to flow well with them, you should go and study the Levitical order in the Bible. So if you're conversant with them, then you can deal well with the Igbos.
Who was this that said that?
G.A. Basdin. If you Google his name, you see it. He said he was advising the priests who were coming to the Igbo land that these people live like the Levites of the Bible. So if you want to flow well with them, go and study them. And so when they started forcing our people into Christianity, the only reason why some went, because when they take the Bible, they open it, they see all the things they have already. It is here, it is here. So then why should I go get myself killed if what I have is what they have? So it was easier to assimilate them into Christianity. But now the turning point is when they started making them Christians in the War of the New Testament, and now most of them are reversing to it. So now what we are doing in Nigeria is the blacks in America, most of them were taken from Biafra. That is why some Americans will tell you that they are Israelis today, because the land that the Igbos are Israel. So if we are taken from there, then we are also. So what I was saying is a breach now is the problem in America is when the blacks realize that they are rooted to Israel, they are uncultured, nobody has taught them, they want to jump on it and come to the synagogue. The rabbis will not accept you that way. They don't know you. It's scary. So when the rabbis turn them away, they don't want to go to Christianity. The easiest place for them to go is Islam. You understand? So if it's a way, so what we are trying to do now, and the Americans who have come to Nigeria, again, that's what this class should bring out. They see every white man as an imperialist, not knowing that the Israelis are not the colonialists. So when you're telling them about maybe some people who are Jewish are not Nizak Sephard, Nizak Ashkenaz, so they still see these two. I said, no, they have something to do with the Americans or the Europeans. So they are skeptical. The blacks in America are skeptical to embrace this Judaism through Nizak Sephard or Nizak Ashkenaz. So what we are trying to do now is to have I call it a construct, Nizak Afriki, to let them know, okay, this is not colonialist now. This is not the, so when they get embraced with Nizak Afriki, it becomes easier for the people in America to integrate, and they integrate to Judaism. So the conflict they're having in America with blacks turning to Islamists and doing this stuff will cut halfway. And then for the man who thinks that the Jews will gather in a register so they can easily kill them with one bomb, no, then the Jews will be all over the whole world. So if he tries to kill the Jews in Jerusalem, he knows that they are in Morocco, they are in Brussels, they are in everywhere, they are in Africa. So psychologically he will be defeated. So he knows that his social construct of bringing the Jews all to Israel and kill them is a deception. It's an illusionary grandeur. It's not going to happen. So the more we teach this, and let the authorities not think that Africans, maybe they can take over Israel. They don't really want to come and take over the land because somebody's here already, somebody's established there. What are you going to do? Well, how will you come and take over the land? So, like when I was talking with a doctor sometime in Israel, that they should establish these outpost nations wherever they are. They establish them, giving them some political backings, they stand strong, then Israel will have allies all over the world. So when they are speaking something, and we have nations that Israel have allies with, you're going to make vote in United Nations, you're not going to be scared for anything. You will always have a stalemate in the voting. Nothing's going to work. So don't be thinking it's like putting yourself in a corner that everybody wants to come back to this. Everybody wants to come back. It means you're putting your eggs in one basket. We should diversify it. And if we put it this way, you see that this anti-Semitism, that Hashem has given us a way to fight it, and maybe we will not recognize it all this while. It will be far gone before we know it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, on behalf of everybody, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Adasa, for being here. And thanks for your patience for being here for the extra special presentation. So, I don't know if people want to